Testing, testing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for taking the time to come to the Quebec session. Obviously, Quebec is a world-class AI ecosystem. They do have this, so I could see there's a reasonable turnout. Also, we are being streamed live on YouTube, so I assume a lot of the participants are joining online due to the coronavirus. So I hope we'll have a very good session today. Okay, so before we begin, I just wanted to do a very quick introduction of myself. My name is Andrew Lim. I'll be the MC for today, but I also work for the Quebec government here in Seoul as a research and innovation attaché. My work involves a lot of startups, accelerators, venture capitalists, institutions, universities. So my work is to kind of facilitate the bridge between Quebec entities and Korean entities. As I mentioned, startups, institutions, etc. So it is my honor to stand here today to share all this great, news and collaboration about Quebec AI, and of course about Korea AI as well. So we do have a great lineup today. You will get a small sample of how great Quebec's AI innovation ecosystem is. So without further ado, we will start the session. And I guess you guys probably know, the ones who are at the session today, there is simultaneous translation. So we do have the receiver. So please do use that if you require Korean interpretation. And for consistency, besides the opening speeches, we will keep the presentations and the speeches in English. Thank you. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Geneviève Roland, Director of the Quebec Government Office in Seoul, or I should say Chef de Poste. So maybe we could give her a good round of applause.
Merci Andrew. Bonjour à tous. 안녕하세요. 오늘 Quebec 세션에 와주셔서 감사합니다. 저는 주한 Quebec 정부 대표부 Geneviève Roland 대표입니다. 만나서 반갑습니다. It's my pleasure to be opening this activity today. As the Quebec government chief representative in Korea, I'm glad to see such a strong mutual interest for collaboration from innovation organizations from both Quebec and Korea. Let me first thank the Korea AI Association, our partner today, for making possible this session. 감사합니다. I would also like to greet our guest who came all the way from Quebec, Mr. Frédéric Laurin, Senior Director for Partnership at Mila, and also Madame Juliana Kim, Director for Business Development at MITAC and Prompt, who will also give a speech, although online. And of course, I would like to thank all the startup representatives for staying up so late back in Quebec. Merci à tous. For those Quebec entrepreneurs, I would say that with the bilateral agreements, with the strong innovation system, Korea is truly a great partner where you can find some partnership to thrive developing, founding, testing, or commercializing your innovations. N'hésitez pas à nous contacter au bureau du Québec à Séoul. On est sur place en Corée pour vous aider. To the Korean startup, I would say that a lot of AI-related programs are moving ahead in Quebec, in which opportunities are given to pilot and test out services and products from 5G, IoT, automated vehicle technology to digital twin technology. And I do hope Quebec can collaborate more and more with Korea on such programs. Last but not least, I would like to reiterate that Korea is an important partner for Quebec. The government of Quebec recently launched its Indo-Pacific strategy, where Korea is identified as a pillar and where supporting collaboration in science, technology, and innovation in the region is a priority. Sur ce, merci et bonne conférence. Have a great session. 감사합니다.
You know, personally, I think her Korean is actually pretty good. Yes. So let's give her another round of applause, especially for her Korean. Yay. Okay, so we'll keep going on with the opening speeches. So now I would like to invite Mr. Kim Se-hyun, Technical Director of the Korea AI Association. So let's give him another round of applause. And he'll do his speech in Korean.
반갑습니다. 한국인공지능협회 기술이사 김세현입니다. 먼저 오늘 먼곳 캐나다 퀘벡에서 인공지능 연구소와 밀라 연구소와 12개 인공지능 혁신 기업들이 주한 캐나다 대사관 사무과 주관으로 2022 국제 인공지능 대전에 함께하고 있습니다. 자, 그분들을 위해서 함께 박수합시다. 산업진흥화라는 큰 목표를 갖고 한국인공지능협회는 벌써 5회째 국제인공지능 대전을 개최하고 있습니다. 더욱 고도화된 인공지능 기술과 차세대 컴퓨팅 연구를 기반으로 다양한 산업에 있어 연구 및 개발, 서비스 및 제품, 비즈니스와 투자, 컨설팅, 네트워크 등으로 인증과 자격, 교육 등에 이르는 광범위한 지능화를 적용하고 있습니다. 이번 행사에 국내외 인공지능 생태계를 선도하는 산학연 각계각층의 전문가와 기업들이 함께하고 있습니다. 인공지능의 현재와 미래에 대한 큰 인사이트를 얻어가시길 바랍니다. 오늘 함께하는 캐나다 퀘벡 연구소와 기업들이 한국인공지능협회와 대한민국 새로운 협력과 지속적인 발전으로 현재와 다음 세대를 위해 견고히 산업 진흥화를 만들어 갔으면 합니다. 이상입니다. 여러분 감사합니다.
Okay, so just to give you a background, the Quebec Government Office in Seoul, we've done a lot of work in the AI ecosystem with Korean partners. And obviously, as you could see, the Korea AI Association has been a very important partner to us. We've actually joined this Korea AI Expo for several years in a row now, and a lot of the partners we've found through this Korea AI Expo as well. So we would also like to give great thanks to the Korea AI Association. So now that the opening speeches are out of the way, I would like to invite the guest of honor who came all the way from Quebec. Just to give you a background, I'm sure you guys know, due to COVID restrictions, a lot of the flights, direct flights, have been obviously canceled. So he actually took many, many hours for him to get here. He had to transfer. There was a lot of, let's say, effort involved. But we were able to get him to come here today, obviously because Mila, Quebec realizes that Korea is a great partner for AI. So without further ado, I would like to introduce Mr. Frédéric Laurent, Senior Director from Mila. Let's give him a warm round of applause.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Frédéric Laurent. I am a Senior Director of Partnership at Mila. Last time I came to Korea was about 7 or 8 years ago, and I was very surprised to see how Seoul changed quite a lot during this time, and it is also very impressive to see a lot of Korean companies developing AI products. So I think it's a testament of the strength of the Korean economy and the Korean AI ecosystem. And we're hoping today to tell you a little bit more about Mila and the Quebec ecosystem in the hope to increase collaboration between our two nations. So let me start by telling you a bit more about Mila. So Mila was founded by Dr. Yoshua Benjo that you see on the pictures on the left in 1993. So he started his AI research lab at University of Montreal. So Mila next year will be almost 30 years old, which is a very long time for a AI research center. And when Yoshua started Mila 30 years ago, he had 3 students and 1 computer. And as you can see, some of the numbers at the bottom of the screen, things have changed quite dramatically, not only from 30 years ago, but quite a lot since 5-6 years ago. And the main reason for that is that we got significant funding from the Quebec and Canadian government to federate all of the researchers, not only from University of Montreal, but from all of the universities in Quebec. And given this funding, Mila has now almost 1,000 AI researchers and is considered the largest AI academic research lab in the world. Something else that we did, given some of the funding by the Quebec and Canadian government, is to think a little bit more about our mission and our pillars. And we've decided to put AI talent at the center of what Mila does. So attracting, training, and hopefully retaining some of that talent in Canada. We get about between 2,000 and 2,500 applications on a yearly basis, and we're able to accept about 200 students. And 90% of those students are actually coming from outside of Canada. Many of them are coming from India, from China, from Iran, from France, and from the United States. Something else that we wanted to do a bit more is what we call AI adoption. So Mila has been world-renowned for publishing research in top conferences for 30 years. But our Canadian and Quebec government wanted Mila to do a bit more applications. And this is one of the strengths of the Korea AI ecosystem. Something else that we did was to create this 90,000 square feet facility where researchers from both academia and corporates are mingling and colliding, if you wish, in the hope of creating more collaboration between academia and corporates. We even have some companies who decide to have their AI research lab within the Mila wall. Samsung being one of our partners for a very long time, they decided to establish their AI research center inside of the Mila wall. And when they wanted to decide which lab to take, they calculated the number of feet between their office and Yoshua Benjo's office. They really wanted to be as close as possible to Yoshua. So this is the list of some of our partners. Little over 6 years ago, we were mainly interacting with larger tech companies like Google, Facebook, IBM, Samsung. But we added a lot more partners interested in applied AI in the last few years. 30% of our partners are active in the life science sector. 50% are actually from outside of Quebec. And almost 75% are startups and scale-ups. So we have about, I would say, 10 very large partners contributing significant amount of money to Mila so that we can then work with startup and scale-up in a more efficient way. So how do we collaborate with companies? We essentially have three ways to work with companies. We have what we call our partnership program, and I'll tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. We also have the more usual research collaboration with professors and also with our internal team of scientists, and I'll give you a bit more details on the next slide. And some other partners decide to contribute to our AI for Humanity initiative. So we have initiative in AI for climate change, for example. We also have initiative on biases in AI, and we have a project with the UK government about finding modern slavery as part of supply chain. So these are just a few examples of a non-profit project, but considered AI for good projects. And some of our partners are happy to contribute financially to these projects. So when I mentioned that we have essentially two types of research collaborations, some companies will want to do fundamental research with our professors, but they will insist generally on some form of open science, open framework. So what this means in practice is that the algorithm and the data that was used to train them will be made open and public and shared with all of the AI community. The main reason for that is that there is strong conviction by our professors that this is the best way to advance AI, and one of the main reasons from the advancement that we've seen in the last 5, 6, 7 years, so that other researchers can more easily reproduce the research and improve on those algorithms. In certain situations, data is a bit sensitive, cannot necessarily be shared more openly. So companies will work with our internal team of scientists. These are actually Mila employees, not associated with universities, and they will mainly do applied AI projects with companies. And they will generally focus on very difficult applied projects that are maybe frontier between fundamental and applied research. For example, one project that we're doing with the City of Montreal is to use reinforcement learning for traffic light optimization. So there was a recent paper that was published in academia, but it was never really applied in practice. So we're working with the City of Montreal in using this new technique in practice. Let me tell you maybe a bit more about our partnership program. So in practice, it's a little bit like a membership. Companies will pay a certain amount based on the size and the head office of the company, and they will have access to a certain number of privileges. Access to talent. So for example, we'll have a job fair, internship fair that are organized on a yearly basis, and companies will have privileged access to those so that they can recruit AI talent. We also have our internal job board that is reserved only for our members. Access to the ecosystem. So I told you a bit earlier about our 90,000 square feet facility, and we have about 300 to 400 research events that are going on at Mila on a yearly basis. So companies, researchers have privileged access to those events. In terms of other research privileges, we publish a monthly newsletter that is sent to all of our partners, discussing about the most recent advancement in AI and some of the recent publications by Mila researchers. And the last privilege, not the least, is the association with the brand. So for our Chinese partner or other Asian partner, we'll generally do a signing ceremony to announce the membership. And with our North American partner, we'll generally do a press release with them. Let me tell you a bit more about the Quebec ecosystem. We are sometimes asked about why is Canada punching a little bit above his weight in terms of AI research. And the main reason we have to go back about 50 years, actually. In 1950, Alan Turing first thought about the Turing test. So for those of you who are not familiar with the test, it's essentially a computer system that is interacting with a human with the ultimate goal of fooling the human that he is actually a real person. And if a computer system is able to do that, then it was said that it would pass the Turing test. So from the 1950s all the way to the 1974, this was a very successful period of research in AI. But then from about 1974 to 1980 came what we now call the first AI winter. And it was almost impossible for researchers to get any kind of funding during that period. And what Canada did in 1983 was to set up a specific fund to fund AI research. And Canada at that time was pretty much the only country who was still financing that kind of research. And that's why we were able to attract researchers from the UK, from France, researchers like Jeff Hinton, Yann LeCun, and even Joshua came from France at that time. And these three researchers, 20 years later, won the Turing Award, which is essentially the Nobel Prize of computing for their work in making AI what it is today. So in that sense, Canada was a little bit lucky to be financing that kind of research 20 years ago. And most of these researchers, Joshua obviously stayed in academia in Montreal. Jeff Hinton founded the Vector Institute, which is our sister institute in Toronto. And Yann LeCun, the French one, actually went to New York, work at Facebook, but we still have very close relationship with them. And then from 1993, where Joshua funded Mila, it took another 20 years of very active research to see some of the breakthrough that we observed at the beginning of 2015. Some breakthrough in computer vision and in translation. So some Mila researchers actually worked on the algorithm that you guys might be using if you want to translate from English to Korean. And it's probably the same algorithm that it is used right now for translation at the moment. And then from that time on, from 2016 all the way to 2021, Montreal saw a very important influx of investment from all of these players. Google, Microsoft, IBM, Facebook started, and then Samsung opened officially his research lab in Montreal in 2018. And maybe a quick word about a recent index that was published a little over 2 months ago, if I'm not mistaken. It's called the Global AI Index, and it looks at different ecosystems in the world. It looks at different aspects, and as you can see on the table, Canada, Korea, and Quebec actually ranks very highly on this index, making it as part of the top 10. And if you look a little bit more closely, Canada and Quebec is very strong for AI talent. South Korea very strong for infrastructure. And then on the research side, Quebec and Canada also very strong, but Korea very strong on the development side. In some of the meetings that I had with companies this week was also a testament about how good Korea was to take some of the research and actually put that in production and in new product. So these complementary strengths, we think, makes our two ecosystem very good for potential collaboration. Thank you.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, I guess like when you hear about Quebec, most people, well, some of the Koreans, they kind of know what Quebec does in terms of AI, but I guess the general public might know Quebec about things like a drama called Dokkaebi, for example. Maybe some of you actually been to the Quebec to travel, etc. But as you could see, Quebec AI ecosystem is definitely world class. As you saw from the chart, a lot of Korean companies, well, not a lot, but I guess to a certain degree a lot, already work with Mila and already work with the Quebec AI ecosystem. As you saw, for example, Samsung has a office actually inside Mila. They have several researchers there doing a lot of great AI work. And one of the key points you also mentioned is Quebec AI in Korea, Quebec AI ecosystem, Korean AI ecosystem, it's very complementary. Yes, as he mentioned, Korea is very good at developing AI, I guess, fundamental research into actual commercial product or applied, product. And Quebec is also good at that too, but Quebec excels in fundamental research, which is very important. I mean, if you think about AI, a lot of great things are out there, but things like new fundamental research, such as cyber-physical brain, these kind of things will be the next generation AI topics that Korea may need to commercialize. So I think that Quebec is an amazing partner in this regard. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that. All right, so we have another great speaker lined up for you. Unfortunately, she couldn't come to Korea, but she will be joining us online. And she is actually quite unique, which you will see very soon. She is from Quebec. She is a Quebec resident, a Canadian citizen, but she has a Korean ethnic background, which is actually really amazing. And she works, and her name is Miss Juliana Herim Kim, and she works for Prompt and MyTax as a director for business development. And she will talk about some of the key things that you could do in partnership with a Korean company or a startup, because Prompt and MyTax, they help support AI research and AI collaboration between the two nations. So I guess we could put her on the screen as she will be doing it in Zoom. So I guess you guys could give her a round of applause, and she will be on the screen momentarily. Yes, if you could give us a moment, we'll put her on the screen and we will begin the presentation. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. 안녕하십니까? 마이탁스 프롬프트의 김혜림이라고 합니다. Hi, my name is Helim Juliana Kim, and I'm a Director of Business Development at Prompt and MyTax. I'm very happy to be here and to present you what we can do to support your innovation projects. So please give me a moment to share my screen. So I guess you can see my screen. Yes. So as I said earlier, I work at Prompt and MyTax, two not-for-profit funding agencies, and we are here to support your innovation projects. So just a brief overview of the Quebec innovation ecosystem. Earlier, Frédéric from Mila highlighted very well, but I just want to add that Quebec has a very vibrant innovation ecosystem, and as part of the latest budget, Quebec has set aside approximately 2.2 billion between now and 2026-27 to support innovation and research, continue the digital shift, and stimulate investment in new technologies and entrepreneurship. So for Quebec, entrepreneurship is a very important axe of innovation. So in more specifically, 1.3 billion towards implementing its Quebec research and innovation strategy, 110 million towards renewing the province's life sciences strategies. And in general, we strongly highlight the sectors such as AI, aeronautics, advanced manufacturing, AR, VR, gaming, cybersecurity, just to name a few. And I know that these are very strategic sectors for Korea as well. So the Quebec innovation model prompt is a RSRI, which stands for a regrouping of industrial research sectors. And we are one of those RSRI, and we have 9 of them in Quebec. So what we do, we support excellence in research, fund collaborative R&D projects. We help expand the business and academic expertise. In doing so, we make knowledge transfer easier. We stimulate innovation via matching business needs to academic expertise. And of course, we develop talent and skill sets in key economic sectors throughout Quebec. Prompt in particular, we are active in those areas that you see on this slide, and it's all IT based. Among those, we are active in AI, cybersecurity, 5G, IoT, quantum computing, etc. So what is collaborative innovation? Well, it's R&D partnerships to create better innovations while sharing the financial risk. So for example, we could fund ICT companies to collaborate with public and academic research centers in a project and to perform in non-industrial sectors, such as AI, such as quantum, etc. So what are the benefits of collaborative research innovation? Well, it gives access to state-of-the-art, world-class knowledge. It gives access to funding amounting to 25 to 80% of direct project costs, and these are not repayable funding. We give access to talent, and we lighten the internal structure while benefiting from the resulting intellectual property. Well, in terms of Prompt as an organization, we have been founded in 2003, and we saw a real SOR during the last 10 years. So during the last 10 years, we have given $58 million of funding to projects, innovative projects, and this is equivalent to about 20 million per year of funding to the companies. And we have been funding up to 206 projects so far. So in terms of prompt advantage, I would like to tell you how we can help you. Well, we'll help you access to the network of researchers, IT industry, and application markets. And we will make made-to-measure, so customized connections with innovation partners. We'll coach how to write your application and validate the financial package when you submit an application to Prompt. And of course, you will get support from Prompt Network. We have over 15,000 researchers, entrepreneurs, and professionals who collaborate with us. And Mila is one of them. So just a brief overview of the funding programs we have at Prompt. So PSO is our longest financing programs we have at Prompt. It's a program to support research and innovation organizations. It's up to 40% funding, maximum $1.5 million or 3 years of project. Quantum technology is for funding quantum computing projects. We provide up to 40% funding, maximum 1 million or up to 3 years of project duration. Partner AI, this is the AI project program. It's up to 50%, maximum 150K per partner, industrial partner, with a project up to 3 years. So this is really geared towards industrial partners. QCIP, this is a cybersecurity innovation program. We have 2 streams in this program. One is for cybersecurity innovation project. We fund up to 25% or maximum $350K of financing or 2 years of project duration. Or there is the cybersecurity certification stream where we provide up to 50% funding or $350K and the project can have a duration of 2 years maximum. And we are also operator of Encore 5G, which is a 5G initiative of Quebec. We provide free access to 5G pre-commercial testing platform in Montreal. And we have another funding program in clean tech in our effort to reduce the GHG emission in Quebec. It's called InnovR, and it provides maximum 40% funding up to 1.5 million for a project of 3 years. So we have HIDOS, a project funding program in Internet of Things applied to health. This is no longer open, but we were operators of these funding programs this year. So there are 2 funding categories. We fund collaborative models, partnership between industry and public or academic research. And we fund innovations in companies. So this is industry sector stream. So there is also possibility to integrate several funding sources, not just prompt, but you could actually go and obtain a higher leverage percentage of funding by integrating leverage from prompt, MyTax, and other federal organizations such as NSERC, NRC. So in terms of MyTax, I told you I was also working at MyTax. Well, I just would like to let you know about our international approach at MyTax. MyTax is a pan-Canadian not-for-profit. We promote and enable international research collaborations in all disciplines with strategic partners by implementing bilateral international research mobility programs. We have a wide expanded research networks and relationships, and we increase economic output and competitiveness by supporting our partners. We provide access to all Canadian partner organizations, and I guess the highlight of our funding program is that we give access to talents and promote knowledge development. So briefly about MyTax programs. We have Accelerate Elevate, which is work integrated learning for colleges, masters, PhDs, and postdoctoral fellows. So the particularity of MyTax is that we fund innovation projects by funding the interns who work on your projects. And these interns can be postdocs, PhDs, masters, so very highly qualified talents. And we have Accelerate International, and this is the international version of Accelerate. Everything is the same, except the company is outside of Canada, and they can have projects inbound and outbound of Canada. Global Link is two-way student mobility programs between Canada and our 2 partner countries. And specifically for Korea, for these Global Link programs, we have partnership with Hanseol, Hangongdae, and NRC, which is a Korean funding agency. And we have MyTax Entrepreneur International. This is a travel brand for startups. So just to highlight that MyTax actually support entrepreneur innovations. So in 2021, MyTax has obtained 708 million funding for national and international research internships from the federal government. MyTax is funded by the federal or provincial governments and the territories. So how can we work together? Well, Prompt and MyTax, we will fund the technological innovations. And you can use us as soft landing tool across Canada for Korean companies wishing to establish themselves in Korea or to do collaborative research with Canadian academia or Canada and Quebec companies. We'll provide you funding support, matchmaking, and visibility for your project. So don't hesitate to contact me. I'm Helen Juliana Kim, Account Director, Prompt and MyTax. Thank you. So I'll just end my screen sharing. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Juliana Kim, for that great presentation. I mean, as you could see, there's a lot of opportunities for collaboration in AI and, of course, other topics, as she mentioned, such as quantum computing with Korea and Quebec. I mean, a lot of startups, companies, the main focus is obviously they need to stay afloat, profits, money. This is very important. So you could see there's a lot of collaborative research funding for Quebec and for Korean companies, organizations, institutions, etc. And you could see there's a lot of, like, we're talking about millions of dollars. So please do let us know, contact us for collaboration to kind of get access to these funds and do some research and innovative projects together. Okay, so we just finished the two speakers that kind of gave us an overview about Quebec AI ecosystem, how we could collaborate, some of the funding opportunities, because obviously money is very important. So now that that's out of the way, we'll go on to give you a quick sample of Quebec's AI innovation ecosystem. What I mean by sample is obviously innovation starts with companies, startups. And a lot of these startups do a lot of the cool AI things that we probably see on TV or also in the booth. So we have a very interesting lineup of 7 Quebec-based AI startups. And they're also featured in the Canada booth right here in AI Expo. So without further ado, before we begin, let me just talk about the first startup that we will kind of introduce. That startup is called DeepLight. And what DeepLight does, it's a startup that utilizes AI for optimization in cloud or edge devices. What that means is obviously for edge devices, they require power, they require consumption of processing, etc. But with DeepLight's optimization solution, they can make this more efficient, more power saving, for example. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Charles Marsh, Chief Commercial Officer of DeepLight. He will do the presentation on screen through Zoom. Let's give him a round of applause. Yep, Charles, you have the floor.
Thank you, Andrew. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we could hear you okay.
Great. I'll just share my screen. Okay, well, it's a pleasure to meet you to all virtually, and many thanks again to the Quebec government for their support in making this happen, especially Andrew and Geneviève as well. So I'm Charles Marsh, Chief Commercial Officer at DeepLight. It's a pleasure to walk you through what we do from an AI perspective. So our focus within AI is very much vision-based, specifically computer vision. And what we're seeing, in Quebec, in North America in general, and across the world, is that there's a growing demand for computer vision-based applications in all types of different vertical markets. And it's typically driven by lots of different cameras and lots of different types of AI applications, such as person detection and classification of images. And that's really where we focus to make these types of applications run efficiently on edge-based devices. And the challenge we're addressing here is that there's a lot of research that's going on in this area. a lot of technology that's been tested, but it's really been tested and researched with really heavy compute. So a lot of testing in cloud infrastructure, lots of GPU power. It's very costly. It's not green friendly in terms of power as well. And ultimately, when we talk about applications and cameras, we're really talking about small compute. So the likes of ARM Cortex chipsets, so CPUs, AI accelerators, microprocessors, of course, GPUs as well. But there's a huge difference in cost and memory size and what's available to run these types of heavy models. So ultimately at DeepLight, our approach is to break down this challenge and to allow computer vision to run faster, smaller, and to use less power on different types of edge devices. And we're a software-based company. We also come with a lot of deep learning AI expertise as well, but we have core software that we've developed to basically help our customers. And our customers are typically AI application companies and OEMs, so companies that are making cameras and edge-based equipment that need to run this type of AI more efficiently. And we have our DeepLight Neutrino core software stack, our runtime engine, and we also have an effective model zoo where you can actually select customized models that we've developed and trained as well that you can run on your edge devices. And we do this without compromising accuracy as much as we can. So without going into all the detail of this slide, because I know it's quite in depth, but it's just to show you the breadth and depth of our software stack, DeepLight Neutrino, and our runtime engine and how it all works together. So we work with companies that have a variety of different hardware, and they typically use our hardware agnostic optimization to run on different types of hardware. Or if you're looking to run specific models on ARM Cortex-A CPUs, which are on a lot of cameras, then you can use our low bit quantization and our runtime engine as well. And where we've seen a lot of success in the market is very much from a security and surveillance perspective, from a mobility, so vehicle perspective, and other types of applications in sort of smart cities as well. So we've done intelligent video analytics with vehicles, with advanced alarm system applications for safety of vehicles. And on the far right there, you're seeing, identifying people, packages. We can also identify, pets and vehicles as well from a security and surveillance perspective. And we also focus a lot on power efficiency. And what we've done with our technology as well is to try and effectively use the hardware that's on the camera itself. So how do you do a low power sort of classification of somebody on the hardware, and then you can actually switch to detecting the person on maybe the more powerful AI accelerator or GPU. So basically using the power as efficiently as possible of the edge device. And just using a quick customer example. So we've done a lot of work in security and surveillance, as I mentioned. A lot of applications in computer vision today are using cloud-based technology, which is very expensive. And we've worked with companies to basically take their AI from the cloud or GPUs and get them to run on the cameras themselves. So in this case, we took a multi-class object detection model. So this was to detect people, pets, packages, and vehicles. So the company we worked with, they took our customized model we call DeepLight Piccolo, and they applied different parts of our software to get this to run on their actual camera. And just to show you, how long this took and the process we went through, we basically tested different types of models with them. They selected our custom model called Piccolo. And, we went back and forth with the customer over a couple of months. Then we actually applied our DeepLight Neutrino software to optimize and quantize this model and preserve the accuracy as much as we can. And then we actually got the application to run and get deployed on the camera itself. So in a relatively short period of time, we went from the problem of getting the model to be small, fast, and accurate, right through to actually getting it to run on the camera itself. And that's really where our expertise in software comes in. And just to round off, so we're very proud to be part of the Montreal, Quebec family. So we're headquartered in Montreal. We've expanded our presence into Toronto as well, but the majority of our team are in Montreal, where there's great AI expertise. And as we heard earlier from Frederick as well, from Mila, you know, we're a partner of Mila, so we leverage the local ecosystem as much as we can. But we've also developed strategic partnerships with Samsung, SDS, and LG, predominantly here in the US, but we're very keen, obviously, to expand that into South Korea as well. So thank you very much for your time. And I wish you a very successful rest of the show. And thank you, Andrew, again for this opportunity.
Okay, let's give Charles a round of applause. Yes, as you could see, DeepLight is quite a unique AI startup. I mean, if you think about AI, we might think about, just AI for vision, etc. But what it does is it optimizes a lot of these other AI algorithms. So I think that's very unique in that sense that it kind of gives value-added service. So thank you for that. And as you already know, as he mentioned, they're already working with a lot of the Korean conglomerates, big partners, because they recognize that Quebec AI technology is world-class. So thank you for that. And next, we have Dr. Alicia Heras from EMA. Before we begin, I just wanted to give you a quick background on a startup called EMA. It's actually one of my favorite startups because they do something very unique. What they do is they use a unique AI algorithm for non-intrusive emotional analytics for websites and apps. And if you think about emotional analytics, maybe people think, oh, you need a camera, you need to see the face, and you need to see the expressions, and then see the emotions. But obviously, people don't turn on the camera and use the website. You know, they just use their website. So EMA has a very unique AI algorithm that through mouse cursor or through fingers of a tablet, because you would use your fingers for a tablet or your phone, can kind of detect in general how you are feeling at that moment or how you're feeling about that website. So this startup, it's for almost everybody because everyone has a website, everyone has an app. So I'm very excited to introduce you. Email Dr. Alicia Heras. You have the floor. Vous avez la parole.
Thank you so much, Andrew, for your kind introduction. Is the sound great? Can you all hear me?
Yes, we could hear you. Go ahead.
Thank you. So my name is Alicia Heras. I'm the founder, chief scientist, and CEO at EMA. I was graduated from University of Montreal in the field of artificial intelligence applied to emotions. So let me introduce you EMA. So as you know, every time we browse an app, it makes us feel something. So we can be delighted when we find or get what we learn or what we wanted. And sometimes we get bored and even angry if something does not work as we expect. But the question is, how do we measure emotions? As you know, there are many technologies right now on the market, like the facial, voice, and text analytics, and even surveys to capture those emotions. The problem with these technologies is they are either too intrusive or they're not very accurate. Well, what if I tell you that we can measure emotions only based on your gestures on touchscreen devices? That's what we do at EMA. EMA is the most advanced and least intrusive emotion analytics for websites. We built an algorithm that can detect up to 6 emotions in real time based only on analyzing gestures with more than 95% accuracy today. So how do you integrate email into your website? It's very easy. It takes under 2 minutes. Well, first of all, you register to our website. Then you get a code that you then copy paste into the head section of your website and the pages that you want to track. And then you log in to your dashboard to see emotion analytics across all the pages of your app. It is known that the number one reason why businesses lose money is because of bad UX. And the market of emotion AI is promising, and improving UX increases sales. So the cost and the business model for using our algorithm is very simple. We charge per visit, starting from 1 cent per emotion and per visitor. So our clients are very happy using email today. They use it to increase conversion on their website by providing great user experience. You can read some of the testimonials on our website to see examples of companies who agreed to share their feedback on email. And I invite you to actually email me if you want a demo so I can show you how email works. And we have a free trial, special free trial for everyone who wants to try this technology for their website to see emotion analytics. Thank you so much for your attention, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Yes, thank you so much, Alicia. Let's give her a round of applause. Yes, as you could see, it's a very unique AI algorithm. I mean, most companies use websites, use apps, so I think it's a very good way to check to see if the UX or the actual users of the website are having a good time, because if they're not, they may not return and you may not get their business. So thank you for that. And just to give you background, email is already working with a lot of Korean companies. They see the importance, and they're trialing out her algorithm. So if you guys are interested, please let me know and let her know as well. All right, so those are some of the 2 innovative startups. We have another lineup for you. This startup is called Artisu. I'll quickly soon introduce Mr. Sam Drizzy, the Chief Visionary Officer. But Artisu, what they do is they do a lot of work on the big trend these days, NFTs, blockchains, to bring value to people's, I guess, digital copyright, this kind of stuff. So this is also very in alignment with what Korea is doing. I'm sure you guys probably heard of NFTs, non-fungible tokens. So they do a lot of work in this area. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Sam Drizzy, Chief Visionary Officer of Artisu. You have the floor. Vous avez la parole.
Thank you so much, Andrew. Did you hear me well?
Yes, I could hear you pretty well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I want to thank Andrew for this opportunity. I'm really grateful to be a part of this amazing event. So my name is Sam Drizzy. I'm the co-founder of Artisu. I represent a group of technology and creative people working and having for mission to have creators as us to preserve, protect, and profit from their intellectual property, which is like the most valuable asset. So the problem today, IP is not adequately secured, and by extension, creators, buyers, collectors are more at risk. Just give you some numbers here. So NFT market generate over $23 billion in trading volume. This is 230x. NFT creators are growing exponentially. It's not only artists, I will just specify that point. So the specific problem, copyright infringement is the pressing problem. I'm sure a lot of people understand what I'm talking about. Collector and subsequently investors are at risk of losing all their profits. Artisu solution allow copyright protection with statutory rights, and we develop artificial intelligence focusing on plagiarism detection. This is our specific solution. So how it works, the ecosystem is simple. We have 100% functional app today in the market, generating blockchain intellectual property certificate, conventional copyright, and artificial intelligence for plagiarism detection. Anyone creating something you need to be alerted if someone copy him. So our artificial intelligence can detect images by pixel, and we can detect textual. If anyone changed some words, we can detect it also with deep learning. And finally, we're developing a solution for video and audio also. So we give the possibility for any creator to sell his intellectual property, giving the easy relationship, vetted relationship between the creator and the buyer. And we also generate a crypto token named Artist Coin to keep and access for any creator around the world wants like sharing or developing his intellectual property. So our model revenue is based in 4 different sources, like upload IP, infringement detection, of course, listing IP, and transaction fee. The ecosystem, we provide 4 different key. The first solution is proof of ownership, proof of originality. This is the proof who are the creator of this algorithm of this creation, plagiarism detection, and monetization, of course. So we had created a new protocol named non-fungible certificate. It's exactly like NFT, but is more evolved than an NFT. An NFT is a simple token. A non-fungible certificate, like, proves the ownership of the creator, proves the authenticity of the content, the algorithm of the creation, and also we generate a smart licensing option, which means like you decide how the owner will use your algorithm or your creation. So this is the principle of tokenization, of course, in crypto. And Artist Coin is backed by intellectual property, which is like the new gold, like you know. And finally, enable creative to tokenize any intellectual property and generate real value. So we launch our coin. The seed round starts today in March. We are looking for, in this seed round, $500,000, which is like simply used for the marketing and development. The solution is ready to start for the new technology. The coin will evolve from stablecoin from utility token, to stablecoin. And we trust and we believe with our community, like non-fungible certificate will be the new NFT. And any creator will be able to generate a profit from his security. So we focused on 59 million freelancers. Just that's the statistic in US. Like I said earlier, is not only creators, like programmers, GameFi producers, consultants, etc. And the investment we are looking for now is for attract freelancers, focusing on the marketing, launch the customer support, and continue developing decentralized application with our artificial intelligence deployed in blockchain. Our roadmap evolving really well. I'm really grateful to say like Deloitte, one of the big 4 consulting firms, selected Artizu as solution for protecting deep startup in developing countries. We start just 2 people. I'm really excited by that. Today, we are more than 30 talents around the world. We win some like awards. We have prestigious partners like Algorand, Polygon, Incor, a lot of lawyers, of course, in other countries. And finally, I'm open to any partnership and investment to launch Artist Coin and Artizu in Korea. Thank you so much for your attention, guys, and I wish you a beautiful day. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sam. Let's give him a round of applause. You know, Art is You, like the name, I really like that name, Art is You. As in, like, you are the art, so we will help protect your digital technology and property. I really like that. And as his title suggests, Chief Visionary Officer. Yes, there's Chief Executive Officer, etc. But I really like this. You know, NFTs are, one could say, it's quite visionary at the moment. So that was really good. Thank you, Sam. And next, we have another startup in Quebec called AI Redefined. As the name suggests, the work that they do is they do work in innovative open source AI platform for AI collaboration, which means they have experts within their network that helps, you know, do AI collaboration. It could be in terms of consulting, algorithm, etc., etc. So it is my pleasure to introduce you to Mr. Craig Vachon, CEO of AI Redefined. You have the floor.
Onseo.
Yes, we could hear you. Thank you for that.
Thank you. AI today is dangerous. It's kind of a controversial thing to say at an AI conference. But today's AI, as we've seen with some of the largest companies in the world, such as Facebook, using AI to increase engagement, the AI is so narrow that it in and of itself is dangerous because it gains engagement by focusing on amplifying hate. What AI lacks today is it lacks context. And what AI Redefined is doing is creating context in AI via a human AI orchestration platform. We all know AI is going to be a game changer. It's because it can self-learn. But this narrow focus and lack of contextual reasoning are huge flaws in what AI is today in AI 1.0. The good news is that AI's flaws are the strengths of other systems. Humans are really good at contextual reasoning, and reliability can be provided by rules-based systems and heuristic systems. But in order to reach its potential, AI needs the ability to collaborate and learn from humans, machine learning systems, and non-machine learning systems. We've gathered a really unique team at AIR, one that is both experts in artificial intelligence and also human-computer interaction. And this combination makes us very unique in the world to bring the context of being human into artificial intelligence. We built a platform. It's an open source platform that is the first to allow for the design, training, deployment of what we call complex intelligent ecosystems, where we mix humans and AI agents of various kinds. And this is something that we first released in 2019, and we released version 1.0 about 9 months ago. If I were to explain intelligent ecosystems, I would do so by using the game Texas Hold'em Poker. If you wanted to build the most powerful Texas Hold'em Poker player, you would do so by creating an AI that would allow for you would do so by having an AI that focused on playing the best possible Texas Hold'em game online. But that game would lack certain things. It wouldn't see the tone and discussion of the other players. It wouldn't be able to measure body language. It wouldn't understand all the history of the game, and then it wouldn't understand human context. And so what our platform does is it allows for the combination of these various AIs, one that might focus solely on tone and discussion, a second AI that might focus on body language and maybe biometric measurements, a third that might look at, that's not an AI, that might be a rules-based system that counts cards or does the history of the game. And finally, you'd have a human that would advise the orchestration platform that the two players sitting next to each other don't like each other. And hence now you've created a system, this intelligence ecosystem that has sort of an unfair advantage in playing the game of Texas Hold'em Poker. And so this is the system that we've built. Cogment is an orchestration platform. It allows for endless topologies of environments where we can have tests to simulated to real world environments with a multitude of actors. And the actors can be machine actors or human actors. The orchestrator oversees the dynamics of the actors in real time. It shows what they can observe, what actions they can take, and how and what they can communicate. This allows for an enormous flexibility with reinforcement learning in a multi-agent environment with human in the loop. What it does is it allows us to create faster training with real-time adaptation and less data required. It also allows us to leverage the very best of human and AI capabilities. And it allows us to iterate really smoothly from simulation to real world environment and back and forth, hot swapping in and out these various AI agents, various IoT devices, and humans in real time so that the training, the continuous training, is further perfected and expedited. We've been recognized by top-tier accelerators, and we've won significant awards, including in Europe, the largest deep tech event called Hello Tomorrow. We were the 2021 grand winner. We also won in North America the 2021 winner of the AI Tech Awards, where we won the best open source AI technology. In satellites, we've also won the Startup Satellite Innovation Award. We work with various wonderful North American research institutes, including Mila, including the University of Alberta, where we work with researchers to ensure that we are providing the very best of this orchestration platform. But additionally, we work with innovative commercial applications in aerospace, in renewable energy, where we're able to take for some of the world's largest private equity firms that own wind farms and solar farms and help them to generate the most revenue possible by arbitraging against the spot market and taking multiple different AIs and creating these very large systems that allow these private equity firms to generate the most revenue possible by totally understanding all the ecosystems that their wind and solar farms sit in. We're working with air taxis, EV tolls, for next generation urban mobility. Because of the complexity of these environments, we have the tool that allows for companies like Joby to understand exactly how their pilots need to be trained, what happens if, and we have the simulation environment where the AI can apprentice to the human as they learn this new system. We have dynamic assistance and emergency services, smart city orchestration with large impact investors, and water network simulation tools with some of the world's largest engineering firms. Our product families, we have an open source core. We have subscription tools that work to allow that open source core to work significantly easier, to make it easy for things like load balancing, analytics, reporting, and tracking tools, including things like auditing and compliance for our insurance engineering companies that need such tools. And then finally, our third tier is SaaS solutions for specific industries, some of which we've already just mentioned. We started this presentation by saying AI 1.0 is dangerous. And we as a company believe that we need to tackle the limitations, the narrowness of today's AI. And that's why we've created this human AI orchestration technology, so that we as humans can leverage the advent of AI to the benefit of all humankind. We'd love to work with you. Kamsahamnida. Thank you for your time.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Craig Vachon. Let's give him a round of applause. One thing I noticed, obviously, with AI Redefined, they do a lot of great work, but I love Mr. Craig Vachon's enthusiasm. I mean, AI for some can be a bit technical, sort of say, but I could see he has a lot of enthusiasm for AI, and usually that's very important for collaboration. And just to give you a heads up, a lot of these Quebec companies, they are currently being represented at the Canadian Pavilion. So if you're interested, please contact us for more B2Bs and collaboration in AI. All right, so without further ado, I'll introduce you to Antea, Mr. Floyd Baker, who's the vice president. And just to give you a background of Antea, they work with maintaining infrastructure, pipes, etc., through 3D modeling, AI, CAD, etc. So they have big accounts. They help the world in kind of making sure that pipes infrastructure is very safe. So without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Mr. Floyd Baker, Vice President of Antea. You have the floor. Allez-y, s'il vous plaît.
Thank you so much. We're so happy to be here. First off, I'd like to say that Antea is a company that's been around for 33 years. We've been developing asset integrity management platform for a very long time. And of course, as the digital transformation journey started many years ago, we of course followed it. So we kind of already have a really good feel how all this works. So we're going to talk a little bit about digital asset integrity. When I say asset integrity, I'm talking about assets as it relates to refineries, petrochemical plants, power plants, any kind of an asset intensive environment where pressure vessels, pipelines, reactors, all these things come into play where you're really trying to maintain pressure envelope to protect your society and of course environment. So what does a digital asset mean as it relates to artificial intelligence? Well, that's digitalized documentation is the first step. And then of course you got to look at integrating that with legacy systems that are in place. That may mean an ERP, enterprise resource planning platform, or your computer maintenance management platform, or your enterprise asset management platform. All these integrations are really important because on one side you've got your financial aspect, the other part you have the asset integrity aspect. So this is a very important part of it. So also integrating to your data historian, and remote sensors. This is where you close the loop on data acquisition in terms of when you're collecting data as you perform maintenance in your ERP, and then in your data historian, you're actually collecting data from remote devices, and there's a lot of information there. And this is where the artificial intelligence comes into places that you have real live data to work with. You also have to think about humans. The humans are also collecting data, and they're collecting that data, and they're doing it in many different ways. You've got, smartphones, you've got tablets, and they're out collecting data, and you want to be able to collect that data in real time. You also have wearables, so that comes into play. Now you want to be able to talk to text, you want to be able to video and take pictures and collect all this information in order to create an AI environment, in order to use machine learning to make decisions. Now, how do you do that? It's all about access to information first. And that information might look like anything. I mean, in this case, we're talking about really industrial assets. So you're talking about maintenance drawings, you maybe you're talking about ERP, you're talking about inspection information. You're also talking about the scheduling information. This scheduling information can be in several different forms. It could be anything from time-based preventative maintenance scheduling. It might be in terms of risk-based inspection based on criticality. There's also sorts of ways or types of information you want to access. Now, the differences are how you access that information. And in this case, it's mostly visual information, visualizing that data so that one might consume that information or consume that data and turn it into actionable information. So visualizing intelligent PNIDs, intelligent PFDs, intelligent electrical diagrams, even plot plans for that matter. Three-dimensional models, point cloud data, creating a digital twin, even visualizing this information through Google Maps for that matter, being able to understand the logistics of the situation and making actionable decisions in a real-time basis. So some of the ways that this can be done is looking at the way one might access import that information first. And in this case, we have this tool we call Asset Extract, and we use that to import existing information from other platforms, because everybody has the data. They have the data somewhere. It's Excel spreadsheets. It's another platform that they're using, importing that data. So after 30 years, we've developed lots of ways we can import that information and make it usable in the platform. Another thing is Asset Sync, which is where one might interact with or interface with another platform. That could be SAP, IBM. It could be your data historian, like maybe Canary or OSI Soft or OSI Pi. This is where you get the real-time, the operational technology information and bring it to the platform. So you not only have the historical data, but you have the real-time data all coming to the same space. This is all very important in terms of creating an AI environment. And this is where you develop the ability to create machine learning. Machine learning only comes with time. It only comes with time, and you have to have the AI to put it in place. Remote sensors and data historian are the key. Those are the enabler. The industrial Internet of Things are the enabler. In the core of this database, we're talking about asset libraries, document management system, operational technology, and scheduling. All this stuff happens in the same space, right in the middle of the core of the platform. And then in that platform also, you have the ability to create a digital twin platform. You can bidirectionally link all the data and all the asset data and all of the PNIDs, PFDs, plot plans, flow diagrams. All this information is all bidirectionally linked right in this digital twin. And then, of course, Rapid 3D, that's just a really quick way to develop 3D models out of dimensional data only dimensional data. You don't need CAD drawings or anything, just dimensions. Putting all this in the same space, you have to think about a lot of different disciplines in these asset-intensive environments. You have to think about refineries, petrochemical plants, you have to think of power plants. Maybe it's disciplines in the plant, maybe it's the I&E department, electrical and instrumentation folks. You got to think about the pipeline integrity guys, because there's a lot of pipelines out there, and all these people have to have the same space to create the, let's just say, a single version of the truth. I've heard that before, and that really sounds like it fits. So starting on the left-hand side, you got inspection data management, you got risk-based inspection. Risk-based inspection is really critical, because you got to know where the risk is in your plant in order to be able to focus your maintenance dollars where they really count. Connect your workers is a big part of it too. You get a lot of sensors in that plant, and on the left-hand side, you see connecting to the data historian. You're actually collecting a lot of real-time data from data historian or remote sensors. But really, if you think about it, humans are sensors too. They're out there collecting data all the time. So pulling that data in and adding that data to what you have in order to improve that AI, this is what's most important. So you have to have several different means to do that. We'll talk about that in a moment. The kind of data we're talking about in these environments are things like damage mechanisms that might affect the damage, the actual pressure or envelope of those assets. And then using the production chemical analysis to understand what those production chemicals are doing that might affect the mechanical soundness of that metallurgy that's maintaining that pressure envelope. We use a risk-based inspection methodology to actually manage that risk. There's several ways to do that, and it's usually defined. You can use a qualitative method, a semi-quantitative method, or a fully quantitative method. And the fully quantitative and semi-quantitative method, those are also verified by Bureau Veritas as being API 581 compliant. So let's talk about digital twin just a moment. When you actually connect to the edge environment, which is the asset, the sensors on the asset, you use that data to talk about the real health of the asset. And that asset you can communicate through this digital twin into a visualization so that a human can consume that data and actually take action, understand what it does. But also, from an AI perspective, autonomously, there are alarms and notifications that actually talk to that human or those humans and tell them what's going on with the health of this asset. Is the pressure too high? Is the temperature too high? Is the temperature too low? And you're looking at brittle fracture conditions. A lot of situations can take place, but when these thresholds are breached, one can be notified of what's going on so that one might take action and fix it. Let's talk about the mobile aspect. This is where humans come into play, because with AI, you collect a lot of data. You collect a whole lot of data from assets, from machines, and from the data that they collect. But when you think about how much work we do in the field, humans do in the field, they collect that data too. And what they need is access to information in order to make those decisions or enable to feed the decision-making process. So mobile activity is most important. We look at this as there's 4 dimensions of a mobile workforce. You know, there's always access to information, and that's the first dimension. Being able to access that information and actually visualize the actual assets and understand what you're looking at. The second dimension involves influencing that information, being able to see it and say something's different. I don't know what this is about. I'm going to provide some input. Bam. So I just influence that information. And the next step of that is the third dimension, where you can do this without having your hands on it. You can actually visualize the information, document what's happening. You can follow automated workflows and visualize that data. And you can follow job assignments and based on the schedules that's been given to you, and actually document what you're doing real time. The next dimension is the fourth dimension, which is wearable technology, also wearable technology, where you can actually get some remote assistance. Maybe you need some, subject matter expert input on what you're looking at. You may see something you don't understand, you want to understand it better. This is how you do that. You actually can get help. You can get help from not only one, but many. One-to-one, one-to-many, or many-to-many. This is a collaboration tool where someone can actually get lots of input and make decisions about what they're looking at in a real-time environment. Integrations are the key here. Integrations are the key. Where you build a platform like this that speaks to every single asset in a highly intensive asset and facility, the most important part of that is integrating to legacy systems that exist. That could be, in this case, it's an SAP integration. It could be Maximo. It could be Upkeep. It could be any kind of a ERP or CMMS or EAM. But integrating those actively working financial platforms to the integrity and asset performance platform. And then the other part of that is the data historian, where you interact with the operating environment. That's the edge environment. This is where we're meant to be. And all of this creates a perfect environment for asset integrity and in an AI environment. Andrew, I really appreciate your time here. Thank you for the invitation.
All right, let's give a round of applause for Mr. Floyd Baker. Thank you. Yes, so because we're running out of time, I'll just quickly introduce the next startup. The next startup or next company is called the Data Science Institute. And I would like to invite Mr. Philippe Neuret to speak about Data Science Institute. You have the floor. Vous avez la parole.
Yes, thank you very much. Andrew, do you see my screen at the moment?
Yes, yes, we could hear you.
And you see my screen as well. Well, thank you very much. I'm going to take, I know it's very late. It's lunchtime for most of you. You must be hungry, looking to go to reach your meal, as I want to go to my bed. So first, I want to welcome you, Andrew. I want to thank you, Andrew, for inviting us today, as well as Paul from the Government of Canada, as well as Prompt, because we did some project with Prompt. Right now, you see the face right now is Michael Albos, the founder. I'm the VP Business Development. Michael is there. watching, but he wanted me to speak on his behalf, given that I speak a little bit more English than usually. So we are one of the companies that we do not have any intellectual property, as most of the companies you've seen, great companies that we've seen previously. Essentially, what we do is very simple. We are we help basically our customer grow their analytic maturity while making money. And by making money, I must insist on that, real money. So we don't do like fundamental research. We do more in the R&D. We do a little bit of research, but we do mostly development. So what we do, we use algorithms that already exist, that are already proven successful in order to deliver the projects to our customers. We don't, like in Montreal, we are in the deep learning mecca. We don't necessarily use deep learning just to use deep learning. We use like boring stuff like linear regression, support vector machine, decision trees, etc. Whatever makes our customer money. Now, what you see here is the typical representation of the Gartner maturity level, analytic maturity level. The reality is a lot of people talk about AI, but not a lot of people are really doing it. It's like teenage sex. Everybody talks about it, but nobody does. There's not a lot of people really doing it. Now, on what we try to do here from descriptive diagnostic, which is things that most practitioners here probably knows, we try to bring our customer as fast as possible toward predictive and prescriptive. So anyone here in the room in Korea who is interested in the last maturity level doing prescriptive analytics is more than welcome to reach out to us. Eventually, as you can see, what we do, we again, like I said, typical data science consulting services, from data preparation, which takes most of the project effort, 80% of the time, and then the remainder development, deployment operations are typical activities that most of you are aware of. So these are some of the customers that we have. Of course, in Korea, you probably don't know most of these companies, but what is important here is I'm going to name a few industries like Desjardins, the financial institution, Radio-Canada is the media. We work with actuaries. We work in the pharma market, the retail market. We work in manufacturing, quality assurance, productivity, yields, and stuff like that. We work in academic. Concordia is the university which we work with. We work with cybersecurity. You probably see the name of a Japanese company with affiliation here in Canada. We work with them very closely, as well as Mila works with them. We work in the telecommunication industry, real estate, public transportation, mining, medical clinics. So I named those few industries. So if anyone works or have use cases in these industries that was successfully implemented in Korea, please reach out to us. If we can make a cookie cutter or copy and paste, we would love to do that, to represent your interests here in Canada, and vice versa. If you have some of those customers that you think that could benefit from our knowledge and expertise into these industry, we will welcome participating to this. Now, one of the key differentiator, because there's so many consulting companies in the world, the reason why we believe we're chosen is because we focus mostly on transparency and interpretability. Here in Montreal, I know a lot of companies use deep learning, but deep learning is a black box. And the problem with black box is the lack of trust when it comes time to put it in production. If you have your job on the line, you want to make sure that you understand why the machine is making a decision. As we say, we work with prescriptive analytics. So transparency, interpretability, explainability is key for most of our customers. And that's what we focus as a differentiator in our market here in Montreal. So if any one of you is also focusing on transparent box or white boxes, anything that can help a human being on the floor, not data scientist, a human being, a subject matter expert, understand why the AI is making or machine learning is making a decision, we are more than welcome to reach out to us. So from the perspective of our customers, they are afraid of, is it a good model? So they don't know. So is the model fair? Is it responsible? Is it ethical? Especially when let's say you want to for credit loan, for instance, you want to understand why a credit is accepted or refused. This is the type of project that is of great interest to us. And from the side of the data scientists as well, they basically sometimes try algorithms. They may not understand exactly what it does, and even when it does, they still need to understand where does a model overestimate, underestimate. There's specific situation where a model perform extremely well in terms of accuracy. They still don't know why, or very low in certain conditions. And that's what we're trying to do, essentially. So we're trying to provide, here you have a sample of different type of rules that any human being can understand. We love to say that if your grandmother can understand a typical rules, that means we're going in the right direction. And as you can see, there's different type of insight from evidentiary, contrastive, decision boundary, bias, model error. I've led the presentation for the people who are interested in it, but it gives you an example of the type of rules we provide our customer so they are able to understand. We go above and beyond just providing a score on an event, which is what most of the time the current deep learning is doing, providing a score on a target variable. So I know we don't have much time, but essentially, again, we're trying to define specific domains, explain why the model perform well, why the model do not perform well, and we help our data scientists or customer improve their current models, basically. So very quickly, what we would like to do in terms of next steps and call to action, two things. We'd love to collaborate with Korean companies who would like to help us or who have an interest into developing interpretable algorithms or more transparent algorithm. You're more than welcome to reach us, and vice versa. If you are interested in knowing what we've been able to do with respect to interpretability, we would love to know about you. So without further ado, thank you very much for your time. I hope you have a great lunch, and hope to hear from you guys. Thank you very much.
Yes, let's give Michael a round of applause. Yes, as you could see,
Philippe. Yeah,
Yes.
it's actually Philippe. Michael is on the picture here. Yeah.
Oh, sorry about that. Yes, so
Don't worry, Andrew. Thank you. Don't
Yes,
worry.
thank you. So
Sorry
as you
for
could-
the confusion.
yes. So as you could see, a lot of the Quebec companies and startups, they're very keen on working with Korea. So do give us a shout if you guys want to work with them. Okay, last but not least, please bear with me. We have one more startup or one more company, and the session will end. I would like to introduce you now to Mr. Dimitri Vitalev, Director and Founder of Equalite. You have the floor.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. Yes, just before lunch, last but not least, as you mentioned, is our company Equalite. So it's a slightly different company to some of the other colleagues on this panel, with a slightly perhaps smaller and focused project. So Equalite develops digital security services and solutions in order to protect human rights on the internet. We've been doing this for about 10 years now. We have a staff of around 30 people based around the world, working either on software development or service provision. Now, one of the tools that we have developed in our portfolio, which is built on machine learning and is actively used in production in our networks, is called Baskerville. So the job of Baskerville is to hound the network for malicious bots. And Baskerville plays a role within a larger ecosystem and infrastructure that we call Deflect. It's basically, its purpose is to protect websites from various forms of cyber attack. And we've been doing this quite successfully since 2011. So Baskerville is part of a greater complex of tools that also offers analytics, caching, hosting, so on and so forth. Several thousand clients use the Deflect services to stay online, to be able to reach their audience. And quite a lot of the organizations under our protection include media, human rights organizations, various democratic movements around the world. We also protect media in South Korea and a few North Korean-focused human rights organizations as well. Now, obviously, these are the type of websites, this is the type of content on the internet that attracts a lot of attacks. So over the years, we've had to improve our arsenal of defenses. to be able to withstand any type of attack that has been launched against our clients and to make sure that they are always online, accessible to their readers. And Baskerville now plays a very essential role in the mitigation aspect of our work. So just as an example for you, on any normal day, about 25, 30, 40 million events go through the network from all sorts of various countries. And every day we're also attacked, or our clients are attacked, and therefore our infrastructure comes under attack. And it is our job as the service provider to differentiate legitimate from malicious requests. Now, from several years in the beginning, we used to do this manually. We had human analysts looking at the traffic patterns, figuring out the particular characteristics of an attack, and then creating manual rule sets in order to mitigate that attack. And about 5 years ago, we started researching and developing an ML way to automate these processes. And this is how we've ended up with Baskerville. So Baskerville is both a pipeline and a clearinghouse and several different models. In Baskerville, we combine two different ML approaches. We use an unsupervised approach for anomaly detection and a supervised approach as a classifier. We're using isolation forest as the anomaly detector. Now, in order to reduce the false positive rates present in isolation forest usage, we train an XGB boost classifier on historical incidents, of which there are quite a few. Now, the combination of these two models allows us to automatically adjust the sensitivity of both models during an attack and keep the false positive rate pretty low. And as you can see, statistics coming up also through our website show you that, yes, all the time, this infrastructure is under attack, and all the time, Baskerville is figuring out who is behaving maliciously and then sending them a challenge, a sort of a Turing test, as was mentioned in the first presentation. Now, Baskerville is deployed as a clearinghouse within the Deflect infrastructure. It can also be deployed as a clearinghouse in any third-party infrastructure, in your infrastructure as well. There are specific things that we wanted to do, being the type of company that we are, that we wanted to ensure in designing the system. And one of the primary ones was that it was private by design, that no personal information would traverse the network. So in our design, a lot of the processing happens at the network edge, and it is only the feature vectors which are communicated back to the clearinghouse. The clearinghouse then replies with a prediction and back to the network edge, and a decision is made there as to what to do with the traffic. Our design also allows us to do dynamic model updates and includes not only a prediction feature, but also a way to mitigate various IPs which are exhibiting the behavior deemed to be anomalous or malicious. So Baskerville can be deployed as a SaaS product, only predictions with the installation of software at the client's end. It can be deployed as a way to receive predictions and also to be able to mitigate anomalous behavior. And it can also be installed entirely by the clients on-premise in a clearinghouse model. Now, you can get more information about the project on the website, deflect.ca. You can also download the entire code base and use it of your own accord. It is 100% open source software. It offers an ideal way for people learning or trying out various ML approaches and models to work with this particular setup. And we're very much open to collaborations.
All right, thank you,
Thank you,
Mr.
everybody.
Dimitri Vitale. Let's give him a round of applause. Yes, as you could see, Quebec has a lot of unique AI startups and institutions and companies. As you could see, they kind of specialize in cybersecurity, but more on the human rights side to protect some of the websites and companies that may be attacked. And I'm sure you know these days everything's digital, so there's DDoS attacks, ransomware, etc. So do give us a contact or Dimitri for more collaboration. So thank you for taking the time. I know it was we kind of went a little bit over time, but it was great that we were able to share what Quebec has to offer, and you guys all really got to see how much Quebec is inclined or how encouraging it is for them to want to work with Korea, because also Korea has a great AI ecosystem as well. So I guess I will conclude this session for today. And once again, thank you for tuning in, those who are live from YouTube and also people on site. And just to wrap up, I would like to say to the Quebec participants as well, please give me a contact for more collaboration with Korea. Contactez-moi s'il vous plaît pour collaboration avec Corée du Sud. Merci. Thank you.
Thank you.
저기 혹시 현장에 지금 계신 분들은
Thank you all. Bye.
네, thank you,
Bye
bye.
bye.
Thank
Bye.
you. 혹시 현장에 계신 분은 괜찮으시면 같이 스테이지 와서 사진도 찍 생각인데 뭐 괜찮으시면